Hello there. Welcome to Sanders Presents. I'm Greg, and if you're enjoying the content we produce, please make sure to like that video, click that subscription button, and have notifications turned on. Today we're really excited to join the BTS challenge. No, it's a data mine. No. Maybe. So, spoiler alert if you didn't read the title. I don't know about that. Crossbones is coming to Marvel's Avengers. As far as I can tell, he looks to be the second villain in the War for Wakanda expansion that's supposed to launch at some point. Which, as of the recording of this video, there is no launch date for War for Wakanda. We know Claw's going to be an enemy. We know that there's going to be a faction. We know there's going to be spider robots. Robot spiders? Spider robots? Robot spiders. Robotic spiders. Spider robotics. And I don't know exactly how Crossbones is going to fit into it. Narratively speaking, that I don't know. But I do know that Crossbones has been added into the game. And again, I wanted to thank Emily for her support in doing a lot of the heavy lifting here. Data mining, does not come with release dates. There's a lot of this that is open to interpretation. There's a lot of this where you're just kind of setting, figuring it out, so to speak. But as it currently stands within the realms of what's in the game, what's right around the corner in terms of War for Wakanda, knowing War for Wakanda is going to have other villain. I mean, again, we'll see how big this actually gets. But Crossbones looks definitely like he is going to be one of the other named villains in terms of Marvel's Avengers. As always, there's... And maybe this is a discussion that could be had. There is something to be said about data mining ruining surprises. Is data mining detrimental to the software, to the game, to the press, to what they're working on, to how they want to reveal it? I've seen the comments, of course, and I understand that, and maybe that is a whole actual conversation to be had. Now, as it stands, again, for a balance of discussion and then also to protect the channel and keep out of the eyesight of any lawsuits or takedowns, I've chosen to not show anything, whether it's audio, visual, anything we pull from it. I've chosen not to provide that in my most recent data mines to try to find some type of balance, but yet to also still cover a discussion topic. And again, it always goes without saying, just because it's data mined doesn't mean it hasn't, it could be canceled, that, they could pull the plug on developing a certain character, a certain enemy, a certain boss. There is no one-to-one that says, this is how it works. This is a release date. It is definitely coming. Just because it's in the code doesn't ever mean that. And I always like to try to keep abreast of that because I know any video can be someone's first video, so to speak. I got an itch in my nose. I think Crossbones is an interesting choice. I think Crossbones is an interesting villain to introduce. He has larger ties to multiple organizations throughout Marvel Comics history. He's more closely associated with Hydra, and knowing that Winter Soldier's coming, I can't help but hope that we get other factions in this game like Hydra, and we know the Kree as a faction is coming. So we already have AIM, of course, and AIM is no doubt going to continue to be prevalent throughout the game world. It's assets that have already been built. It's cheap. It's affordable. So AIM's not going anywhere ever. Let's just be real. AIM's never going to go anywhere. So I do kind of hope, though, that with the introduction of Crossbones and with the introduction of Winter Soldier, that this will lead us to Hydra, and, therefore Red Skull, and get into other avenues of Marvel Comics, other villains, other groups, even if it's just different costumes, just different skins of villains to fight, just some kind of variety that isn't the AIM bots. Which is just a massive disconnect in terms of engagement. It's not engaging. It doesn't matter how good the combat is if what you're fighting is not fun. An example that I like to use very often is Halo, right? Not the Beyonce song, which is wonderful, but the video game. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's exclusive to Xbox. Sony doesn't get it. But in Halo, they have and they have seven, seven enemy types, so to speak. And within those enemy types, those enemies have ranks that make them more powerful. And then, of course, the variable of guns and shields. But you have grunts, you have jackals, you have elites, you have hunters, you have the buggers, you have the prophets, and you have the brutes. And then within that, you have variations, like you have the skirmishers, which are an offshoot of the jackals. And then you have the engineers as well that were introduced in Halo 3 ODST. There's a lot of enemy variety, and they're really popular enemies to fight. They come in a variety of colors through their armor. They stand out. They have unique silhouettes. You know exactly what you're fighting when you're fighting it. They all have unique audio cues. They have unique dialogue. They have, again, flavorful dialogue, colorful dialogue, relevant dialogue, comedic dialogue. That's all tied to each one, of their classes, so to speak. And they're engaging, and that's when Halo's at its best. That's why they keep finding ways to bring those enemies back. They're really engaging enemies. That's a part of the Halo canon. Then within that, you have the Flood, and the Flood's always minimal. You fight the Flood at specific points, and the Flood, therefore, is variations of the Covenant, because the Flood assimilation, and then humans and whatnot. But then think about when they introduced the Prometheans. Yes, Prometheans had unique silhouettes. There were a couple of different types of them, but they were not engaging. They weren't fun to fight. They weren't entertaining villains. They just weren't entertaining villains. That's it. And there is something to be said about just throwing robots at a player and trying to engage them. You can have robots as villains, but they need to be more entertaining, not mindless drones. Again, that's why this Clone Wars is engaging, because the battle droids there is personality among the battle droid ranks. So it makes it a little bit more engaging. But it offshoots the balance of Star Wars was, in terms of, George Lucas's, primary avenue, was a PG-rated product. You could not have the Jedi going through cutting up a bunch of organic beings continuously in war. Think about taking on a group of battle droids, but it's a group of humans, and they would just be slicing them up, and their body parts would be flying everywhere. You couldn't, the amount of cuts and, the amount of cuts you would have to do to maintain a PG rating that George Lucas maintained for Attack of the Clones and then throughout the Clone Wars, it would have been impossible. George Lucas was a genius in saying, if I'm going to have all these Jedi with lightsabers, they can't continuously fight human enemies. So there is something to be said about that, but Lucas also found a way to build in personality within the droids and make it and still make it engaging, just like he did with the clones. So there is something to be said for that. And robots in video games, these robot enemies, whether it's the Prometheans or whether it's the aimbots, they lack personality. They lack any sense of character. They're just husks. They're not engaging. So when I look at Crossbones and I see that Crossbones is coming, and I look at Winter Soldier and I know that Winter Soldier is coming, it does give me, hope that at the very least, maybe they can use this as a backdoor to get Hydra in quickly, to find ways to introduce other villain types without needing a massive expansion. You know what I mean? So that's what I hope for. That's what I hope for reading into this. But if you're looking just purely for the other villain that's coming to War for Wakanda, it is definitively Crossbones. I feel very confident in that. Every sign points to it. Let me put it that way. To my YouTube members, thank you so much for your support and for making this content possible. If you're interested in supporting the channel and becoming a YouTube member, you can check out a link at the description below. You can become a master today for $2.99 a month. Thank you for considering. To everyone, thank you all for watching and being a part of the conversation. I really do appreciate it. Please consider liking this video, hitting that subscribe button and showing it some love, giving it a little bit of a personal touch, you know what I'm saying? And making sure to share this with your friends across social media. All of these steps help immensely with YouTube's analytics and YouTube's algorithms. Above all else, and most importantly, stay safe, take care of others, and may the Force be with you.